What's up YouTube, this is Tubedigga. In this video I'm going to show you my workflow for using the Mpcx or MPC Live in a live DJ scenario. I'm going to show you how you can mix and blend tracks that are all the same tempo for beat matching purposes, and I'm also going to show you how to mix and blend tracks just using your pad mixer for more of an eclectic set where you're not worried about beat matching and you just want to mix and blend between two tracks. I'm also going to show you how to set up a simple crossfader, and I'm also going to show you how to use your headphones and cue up your next track that you're mixing into the currently playing track. Let's first of all look at my pad mixer. So on the Mpcx you can press pad mixer button here, or on both machines you can press and hold menu and press pad 11 and that will take you to your pad mixer. In my first four pads here I've got 4 drum and bass tracks loaded in, and they are all 170 beats per minute. Now drum and bass and jungle tracks generally last between 5 and 7 minutes long on average. These are the full wave versions or WAV versions of these, so each one of these is probably taking up around 70 megabytes in memory. Let's go to the system resources window and you can see that I'm using around 50 or 60% of my RAM memory. That's as much as I am comfortable with loading into the MPC. You can load more in, but I recommend you don't really go above 50 or 60%, just for safety purposes. Let's just click out of that. So another good thing to utilize in this workflow is pressing the pads on your screen so you don't trigger them back accidentally in the middle of your set. So if you want to select one of your tracks to edit in the program editor, which I'll show you in a minute, just press on the screen and that won't trigger the pad back, and that will save you playing back anything over the top of anything that's currently playing by accident. Now we want to go to the program editor and just take a look at these tracks. So on the Mpcx again you've got your dedicated button here. If you're on the X or live, press and hold menu and press pad 14 and that will take you to your program edit. So let's just zoom into our first pad here. Now, if you haven't prepared your tracks in a DAW, that's to say you haven't adjusted them so they start dead at the start of the track, you can easily do that in the Mpcx or MPC Live and get it pretty much exactly dead on where that waveform starts to come in there at the start of the track. Now, I've done that for each of these 4 pads, so I know that as long as my timing is pretty much spot on, these tracks are going to mix and beat match, and then it's just a simple case of using the pad mixer to mix and blend between them. So this does depend somewhat heavily on your own natural timing skills. So if you're a DJ already, you should have that in check. If not, please do practice so you can get your pad hits dead on time, because that will make all the difference. So the next thing that I want to mention about this workflow is your memory usage. So as I showed you, I'm already using about 50%. Let's say that you've already played this first track and you've successfully mixed in this second track, which is on this second pad. You no longer need this, so the idea is that you just keep returning to program edit every time that you've used the track and just delete it out of the program. That way, any samples that aren't assigned to a pad in any of your programs or assigned to an audio track can be purged out of memory, and that will keep your memory to a minimum. There's just something else I want to mention on that. I have actually done a live hip-hop set where I had about 12 hip-hop tracks loaded in here, but they were MP3s and I was only using about 40% of my memory. So it's a good idea to optimize the data size of your tracks. So let's get back to monitoring these tracks so you can hear them in your headphones. If you just take a look down here on the front of my MPC, you can see I've got my headphones connected to, it's a little bit off screen, but I've got that connected to the 1/4" headphone jack at the front of my Mpcx. Just next to that jack, you've got this knob down the bottom, and that will mix and blend between outputs 1 and 2 and outputs 3 and 4. So if you do want to utilize this, you don't necessarily need it if you've got really good timing and you're confident that you can just trigger a pad and know that that's going to come in time. But if we just click on our second track here, you can see that's set to outputs 1 and 2. Let's change it to 3 and 4. Now you will be able to hear that in your headphones, providing you've got this knob at the front of the Mpcx and you've got that fully clockwise, and that will play back in your headphones anything that's coming from outputs or routed to outputs 3 and 4. So what I'm going to do is trigger this first track on pad A01. Now let's go to the program editor. I'm just going to move the start point of this, just for the sake of this video, up to this later point in the track. And what I'm going to do is when this reaches a logical point, maybe 16 bars after this beat comes in here, I'm going to give myself that amount of time to be triggering this pad back, and then I'm going to get it as dead on in time as I possibly can. Again, this is all down to your own skill and timing as a producer or DJ or performer. So let's just trigger this now. I've given myself some headroom here, and this track is at -10 dB. And this makes mixing a lot easier if you bring down the volumes of your pads. So what I'm going to do is choose my second pad, switch that to outputs 3 and 4 so I can hear it in my headphones, and I'm going to start triggering it back. Okay, so now it's in time. I want to make sure the volume is down, switch back to outputs 1 and 2. Now another thing you can do is go back to the program edit, and you can see I've set the filter to high pass, and that will take out a lot of the bottom end so we don't get clashes. And now let's slowly introduce the low end. And there you go, a seamless beat matched mix between these two tracks. Let's now show you an example of the next track. So this is now coming out of outputs 1 and 2. We can just go to the next track and select the output to 3 and 4 so we can now hear this next track in the headphones, and I'm going to cue that up. So I'm going to wait for a logical bar. And there you go. Let's go back to the pad mixer, make sure the volume's down, change that to output 1 and 2. Go back to the program editor, just want to check the filter on that. So we've got the high pass filter all the way up. So I can hear it's a little bit slow, it's lagging behind. So what I can do now is go to the fine tune, and just flick that up. And that will just nudge the track forward a little bit. Now I can hear that it's much better timed. And then we can use the pad mutes, of course. We go back to the previous track and take the bottom end out of that. Okay, I'm just going to turn that down. So they're all nicely beat matched, and of course, let's try not to forget to purge. So we can just go back to the program editor, samples page, delete that, pad mixer, select this track from the screen so we don't trigger it, delete that, go up to purge. So this is just something you do periodically just to free up your memory, and then you can start loading additional tracks in. And that's how you queue up and actually beat match your tracks. So you need your headphones, and you need to utilize this knob, and you need to set the track that you're going to mix into the currently playing track to outputs 3 and 4, time it up in your headphones, then turn the volume down. You need to have the volume up to hear it in the headphones. There's no way to cue it when these volumes are down at -infinity dB or silent. You won't be able to hear them in the headphones or the outputs. But obviously it's a short transition between the time that you've selected your outputs 1 and 2 to return to, and then you can increase the volume. And as I showed you, I just used my filters. I recommend using the high pass. You can of course use the low pass, but it will depend on what tracks you've got playing and what the content is within them. Let's say that you had a track that was just, you know, like an atmospheric breakdown. You could introduce a track that had a low pass filter on and gradually increase the cutoff and open that track out, and then you would have a nice balance in frequencies. But that's just down to you guys, depending on what tracks you're playing. You can use your pad filters in the same way that you would an EQ on a DJ mixer. And that's how you cue up and actually beat match your tracks. So you need your headphones, and you need to utilize this knob, and you need to set the track that you're going to mix into the currently playing track to outputs 3 and 4. Time it up in your headphones, then turn the volume down. You need to have the volume up to hear it in the headphones. There's no way to cue it when these volumes are down at -infinity dB or silent. You won't be able to hear them in the headphones or the outputs. But obviously it's a short transition between the time that you've selected your outputs 1 and 2 to return to, and then you can increase the volume. And as I showed you, I just used my filters. I recommend using the high pass. You can of course use the low pass, but it will depend on what tracks you've got playing and what the content is within them. Let's say that you had a track that was just, you know, like an atmospheric breakdown. You could introduce a track that had a low pass filter on and gradually increase the cutoff and open that track out, and then you would have a nice balance in frequencies. But that's just down to you guys, depending on what tracks you're playing. You can use your pad filters in the same way that you would an EQ on a DJ mixer. So let's now take a look at a non-beat match scenario. It's exactly the same. Let's just create a new project. Don't save. And I'm just going to go to my browser, places, Mpcx SD, and go to finals. This is where I've got a lot of tracks that are just finished. Don't want to audition these. So let's just load that into the first pad. So I've now got 8 tracks loaded into the MPC. Let's go back to the main page and take a look at the system resources. So now, as you can see, I've got 8 tracks. These are a lot shorter because they're hip hop tracks. Some of them are only about 2.5 minutes long. And you can see that I'm only up to about 40% in my RAM memory usage. So in this scenario, it's very simple. You don't need to worry about queuing necessarily, because you're just going to be using the pad mixer to mix and blend these. So I'm just going to select this first track, go to Program Edit, and just move this up so we don't have to wait for that intro. So there you go, your track's playing through. You just literally trigger your next song. And it's as simple as that. It's just literally using the pad mixer to mix and blend between your tracks. So next I'm going to show you how to set up a basic crossfader, which is completely optional. This means you will need to additionally take with you a MIDI controller of some description. As you can see, I've precariously got my Beatstep Pro just lodged up here so you guys can see it. I'm going to press and hold menu and press pad 3 and go to my MIDI control mode. Now we need to be in MIDI learn mode, which is this third tab here. And I'm going to press the plus symbol twice, and that will create 2 targets for us to MIDI control. We want to change the source by double tapping, go down to Program 001, where I've got my tracks loaded to, and we want to choose Pad Bank A A01. We want to choose the target, which is the field underneath where you can see the source, and we want to choose Mixer Level. So now we want to put it in MIDI learn mode, and I'm just going to turn this very top knob here on my Beatstep Pro, and that will register the type, which is an absolute CC, and that's for pad A01, and the target is the level, as I said. So let's now go back to Pad Mixer. I'm going to press it from here because I don't think that's going to let me go back with a shortcut. And you can see that this knob will now adjust the volume of this pad. Let's go back to MIDI control again. Now we want to select the same options for our second pad. So source is program 001, pad, bank A and pad 2. Make sure enable mapping is set there. I knocked that out. Not physically, I didn't go and punch it in the chin or anything. So yeah, the source is pad AA2, and now the target needs to be exactly the same level. We need to put it into learn mode, and we want to choose the same knob. Okay, so this top knob, and that's registered. But this time you'll notice there's a flip parameter down here. We need to check that. And that's all we need to do. That's all set up now. Let's go back to the pad mixer. And now you'll see that when I move this knob, this will go down and the other one will go up, and vice versa. And they have a simple crossfader. So this might be a little bit complex to get this perfectly how you want it, alongside doing all the beat matching, but this is a really nice little trick. And there you have a simple crossfader that you can utilize in this setup should you choose to do so. And that's it, guys. Any questions on this, please put them down below or PM me at tubedigga@gmail.com. If you want private lessons with myself, of course, contact me at tubedigga@gmail.com as well. And of course, if you want to donate to the channel to help me out, I would be extremely grateful. You can just send any amount of your choice. Just go to PayPal and choose tubedigga@gmail.com as the recipient. And I would be forever grateful for your help. That's it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please, any questions, comments down below, and I'll see you on the next one. This is Tubedigga, and I'm out.